Hello there. On April 28th, the second Lagos Forum, co-hosted by the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, the Consulate General of the People's Republic of China, the Zhejiang Normal University, and then, of course, the China African Economy Magazine at the International the Institute of International Affairs in Lagos hosted the second forum. Of course, this forum brought over 100 participants, from government, the universities, the public and private enterprises, the media, all from China and, of course, Nigeria, to discuss the theme on modernization, implementing the spirit of 2024 FOCAC Beijing Summit, and of course deepening the comprehensive strategic partnership between China and Nigeria. The Sunday Show on NTA Channel 10. The participants engaged in in-depth analysis of green economy, cooperation between China and Nigeria, digital economy, infrastructure, and then, of course, energy transition, cultural exchange, a whole lot of other things that would bring about cordial and progressive relationship between China and Nigeria. Of course, I have with me in the studio to discuss this all-important Lagos Second Forum. People who were part of the organization and then, of course, who participated in the forum. And, of course, first of all, I have the Director General of the African Studies at Zhejiang National Normal University in China, who also had a stint of 35 years in Nigeria, and then where he was undergoing research and then being able to foster cordial relationship between China and Nigeria, having students learn from him, having spent 35 years in Nigeria. And then I have here Professor Liu Hongwu. He's the Director General of the Institute of African Studies at Zhejiang Normal University. You're welcome to the program.
Yes, thank you, Secretary.
Yes. I also have here Mr. Ike Naimewu. He's the Editor-in-Chief of the China Africa Economy Magazine. Of course, he's been in the news publishing world for quite a long time. You're welcome, Mr. Mewu.
Thank you, Sir Chris.
Okay. I also have here Professor F.M. Ubi. He's Director of Studies, Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, and then, of course, there's a think tank of the Nigerian External Affairs Ministry, and of course, they also discuss Nigeria's bilateral relationship with other countries. Professor B, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me, Sir Chris.
Now, these are professors, and of course, but they won't be professorial because they'll try to explain things normally to the people. Now, let me go to Professor Jean first. Let's look at why Lagos was actually chosen as a location for this China-Nigeria bilateral cooperation. What's the essence of doing it in Lagos?
Okay. Lagos, we know, everybody knows Lagos is in the not only Nigeria important economy, and also all the African continent, maybe the very key city. So today the China and Nigeria cooperation, and also the cooperation with all the African countries is important for our two sides that are very strong and strong. In the past about 13 and 15 years, Nigeria and China cooperation, not only such as traditional education, and the people exchanging. But recently, we are in the focus on the modern economy, such as the green economy and digital cooperation, and also we have such as industrialization. We are China and Nigeria together, hand to hand together, push our modernization. For about 35 years ago, I come here, Lagos University study. In that time, I'm a very young scholar in the Lagos University. In that time, we know in the international world, especially Western country, they think that Africa cannot go to the modernization, especially cannot go to the industrialization. So we have lost many times for the African continent to push their industrialization. But for today, all the African country, if African country cannot independently industrialization, Africa economy never independence. Because according to China's experience, China is about 35 years ago is independence now, very poor, no more than the industrialization, but China unity won. So push on the organization by the central government, and also the open outside. So today China is in the world the largest industrialized country now. So Nigeria is a bigger country and so many people, so many land, and so many university and very well skilled population, especially young population is very well. And also Nigeria is how to say the natural resource is very rich. So I think Nigeria also can push independence and industrialization. So in this time, China and the Nigeria cooperation focus on at least 10 areas: agriculture, industrialization, and everything. So, but today we are think tank and university and the media, where cooperation is very few. So about 2 years ago, I come here and discussion. My brother Ameu and my brother Ruby, we discussion maybe we should be set up the planting, take the bridge, let our two sides, the university and think tank and the media, to discussion, face-to-face discussion, to see our dialogue, how our two country, how we can cooperation.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now let me get to Mr. Mewu now to talk about the significance of the theme. Projecting, implementing a strategic partnership relationship between China and Africa. You are the editor of the China Africa Economy magazine. Now, what's the significance of this theme that underlined FOCAC 24? What is the significance?
Thank you, Chris. The significance is simple. FOCAC, Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, did its 24th anniversary last year. That is 2,000 years.
That's quite some time.
Yeah. That means it has come of age, almost a quarter of a century. And the summit holds every 3 years in China and in Africa, depending on who picks the responsibility of hosting. Now, having come of age at 24, FOCAC doesn't just go on a talk show. They embark on implementable policies. Therefore, anytime FOCAC holds its summit, there will be a subsequent follow-up discussions, fora, and gatherings and meetings to be sure that there is a strict monitoring.
Within the 3 years?
Yes, within the 3 years.
Okay.
A strict monitoring to be sure that these things discussed are implemented, not just discussed for the textbooks. So that was actually the reason this topic was chosen. Having hosted the summit in Beijing last year, and one of the key declarations of that summit was by President Xi Jinping of China, who declared that on the framework of FOCAC, a multilateral diplomatic platform between Africa and China, that
should be established.
Yeah, no, it's already established.
Okay.
Since year 2000.
Okay.
Now he declared that inclusively the relationship between China and all African countries who are members of FOCAC has been elevated to what he called all-weather strategic partnership.
Oh, really?
Yep. So that means there are no barriers to the extent the FOCAC agenda could be implemented. And because
Between the two countries?
yes, between
Africa and China.
and China, and having made such important declaration, it behooves us as organizations who have a focus on monitoring Africa and China relationship. The NIIA, you already know, is a think tank, like the policy formulator for Nigeria's international diplomatic relations.
Yes.
Now, I belong to the media. Ours is to let the world know what is going on, to educate the public. That's Africa China Economy Magazine. That has been 8 years in existence. Then the Consulate General of the People's Republic of China here in Nigeria, we know, carries out a wide range of diplomatic relationship between the two worlds or the two countries. And Professor Liu Hongwo's Institute of African Studies of the Georgian Normal University. So they have also a mandate to make sure that these declarations or policies or pronouncements of the summit are implementable. So the choice of the topic was to make sure that we are monitoring the implementation of the declarations of that summit.
Okay, let me go to Professor Subi here. You belong to the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, which is the think tank, for the country. Now, Professor Jiajun and then Mr. Emewu have pointed out the essence of the forum, and then the fact that we need to have implementable projects. Now, what were those consensus that were arrived at, and how do you think they actually can be implemented?
Again, for having us in your program. Like every meeting that is being held, whether it's bilateral or whether it is a multilateral meeting, and whether it's a conference and/or a workshop, there must be a consensus that must be reached. Now, first, the whole idea of the forum means there's something we have in common and a future that we're looking forward to. So what's that future? If the 2024 FOCAC Beijing Summit talked about one key aspect that resonated in President Xi Jinping's address at that forum was modernization.
Yeah.
And the Chinese government like using the word modernization, but it's all about development. And one of the main tenets is that each country, and which is what Professor Liu talked about, each country has a right to decide its development pattern. Invariably, we don't have, no country has a right to prescribe what development should be and how the development process should be. And so,
for another country.
So what we reached at is, now with all the indicators and factors that President Xi Jinping raised at the FOCAC, how are we going to implement them? Key amongst it was that issues of development. What's the follow through? What should be the process of implementation. If you listen to the, if you follow, actually if you had followed the last March 2 sessions in China, the Wang Yi, the foreign minister of China, said that there can never be a true modernization or development globally if Africa is not developed. And what he also added was there can't be justice if African countries are not developed. And so that is key. We have to fashion out, but not just fashion out, our own development process. Now, most of the discussion that took place was lessons we could learn from China, with regards to development and modernization. Now, another issue that was reached was the issue of people-to-people exchange. We need to understand ourselves, whether it is politically, economically, and culturally, or socioculturally, if I have to put it that way. I think a lot of the problems we have globally is that absence of understanding, or cultural understanding. So we are also, which is also part of what was reached at the Dar es Salaam consensus, people-to-people exchange. And this can be bring about not just we sending students to China, or send people to China for capacity building, but also the Chinese will also come here. And that is why if you look around in many universities, you see Chinese are here. And you go to China, you see thousands of Africans.
Okay, that's the outcome of the Dar es Salaam consensus.
Which that think tanks we have to meet. Think tanks we have to fashion out a proper way of engaging each other. That is, countries in Africa and China should fashion out a way of engaging each other, that it will be beneficial, will pivot on win-win development. Then we also look at infrastructural development. So if you look across Africa, and even if you look in Nigeria, you see that there are Chinese infrastructural footprints across. Now, we had to look at all this aspect of the engagement, and how where we look at the failures and where we can enhance. So we came up with proper pragmatic solutions.
Now that is what I'm going back to Professor Liu Zhejiang to now ask him, in practical terms, I guess that's the essence of you being here today, how can we implement all these consensus reached so as to guarantee a development future for our country? Because you have something better, and we want to copy, emulate the something better that you have, so that we can be better. so how do we do that?
Okay. Thank you, consensus. The Dar es Salaam consensus.
Yes.
Yesterday, last year we declared in Tanzania Dar es Salaam. That is from about 15 African countries, the provincial and the think tank and China together. That is important for our two sides, because according to some of the media says that is the first one in the world, in the history world, is from the south country, the consensus, and not from the north country. So this consensus is focused on in the China and the Nigeria, and the China and Africa, our two sides of cooperation. So that is a benefit of all the people, because this year and every year I'm back to the African continent to see what's the change in now African continent. So I go to the Port Harcourt, go to Cairo, go to the Ibadan. We found that everywhere now Nigeria and this country is changing now. But how we in the focus on China and Nigeria in the future cooperation the best and improve our two sides. So we should be the more and more detailed discussion our two sides, because Nigeria is a different country. Everywhere North Cairo and Port Harcourt, Lagos is very different. So we should be really the area and the country to study.
All right.
So it should be the more think tank come here, better understand Nigeria. And also we wanted to more and more Nigeria political and media go to China, so we can better stand, so we can in the future we can good planning for our in the side of cooperation.
Well, it's time to thank the gentleman that I have been talking with, the Director General of the Institute of African Studies at Jeju Normal University, Professor Liu Hongwu. Thank you for being on the program. Also, Professor F.M. Ubi, he's Director of Studies, Nigerian Institute of International Affairs. Thank you for being on the program. And then, of course, my colleague here, Ikenna Emewu, is the Editor-in-Chief of the Africa China Economy Magazine. Thank you for being on the program. Of course, the bottom line is, how do we benefit from the Chinese development so that we can translate that into our own future development? Okay, thank you so much, gentlemen, for being on the program.
Thank you.
The Sunday Show on NTA Channel 10.
The Akwa Ibom State Community in Lagos, Akikom, has called on the governor of Akwa Ibom State, Pastor Umo Eno, to call the Lagos liaison officer, Mr. Samuel Asuko, to order for deliberately refused to grant audience to the leadership of Akikom. Speaking on the achievements, challenges, and projection of the community, the president of Akikom, Chief Edet Ambang, said the briefing is for the purpose of sustaining the hard-earned peace and unity long enjoyed by the community.
We commend our governor, His Excellency Pastor Moino, for the unprecedented achievement he has recorded in Akwa Ibom State. So as indigenes of Akwa Ibom State in Lagos, we want to also feel the impact of those unprecedented achievements because we have some pressing needs as a community so that Akwa Ibomites in Lagos can also feel the impact of His Excellency. So in area of renovating our meeting hall, then there's an ongoing project for our plaza. We want government to take up that project. And of course, grants for SME, grant for entrepreneurial training, then scholarship, and of course, medical outreach for our elderly members.
I'm hopeful that the man that the whole world knows, that this man is the one that will carry the whole state, especially the youth. He has touched the life of the youth of my state. He has changed the life of the youth in my state completely. So we are hopeful that we are going to make gainful impact when the governor comes to Lagos on Sunday.
Akikom, Lagos, remain the umbrella and parent body of all Akwa Ibom indigenes from the 31 local government residents in Lagos. Some of the members speak on the way forward and achievements.
The world has heard and have read in papers that we are not interested in fighting anybody. We want peace in Eket Central District. We want peace in Eket Central District. We want peace in Uyo Central District. And therefore, we have spelled out the truths that need to be told. And there we stand.
To our governor, who is very magnanimous to work for us, very accommodating, very receptive. And I really pray God that today's press conference will reach him in peace, and he's going to look into all what we have outlined and come to our aid.
Akikom is a social cultural organization of Akwa Ibom extraction in Lagos, with a wider spread across all local governments in Lagos State.
At Sona Plastics, customers' needs are our priority. We give you all the attention you need. With us, our customers are king. Located at Kilometer 40, Lagos Abeokuta Expressway, Ijoko, Ogun State. Sona Plastics Limited, we're just a phone call away. Contact us through 080-2783-5332. You can reach us through any of our lines and social media handles. Sona Plastics Limited. Come, let us treat you like a king.
It's time to celebrate the brightest and most curious minds on the planet, our children. On this special day, we celebrate the creativity and excitement children brings to our life.
Somebody can say you have not seen anything. Okay, if you know you're here for the front.
the 2025 NTA Lagos Channel 10 Children's Day event will feature match pass, beauty pageant, dance competition, games, chess, Scrabble, table tennis, Ludo, and so much more. Watch your favorite artists perform, have fun, and play in our colorful bouncy castle. Send shout-outs and goodwill messages to your loved ones. All these will be happening on Tuesday, 27th May 2025. Venue, NTA Lagos Channel 10, Tedros Show Avenue, Yaba. Time, 10 a.m. Gate fee, 3,000 naira per child. There will be gift packs for every child and prizes for winners of the various competitions. For sponsorship and inquiries, please call Incam 0706 086 5487, Chibuzo 0812 324 5519, Gmo 0803-830-1669. Date again, Tuesday, 27th May 2025. Venue, NTA Lagos Channel 10 premises, Tedros Shoyaba. Time, 10 a.m. Gate fee, 3,000 naira per child. The NTA Lagos Channel 10 Children's Day Party promises to be an unparalleled adventure. Happy Children's Day.
The Sunday Show on NTA Channel 10.
Of course, I still have some gentlemen here with me, but we are interested in discussing Professor Liu Hongwu and his activities in Nigeria as part of the Lagos Forum. Professor Liu Hongwu came to Nigeria 35 years ago in 1990, and then he went to the University of Lagos, where he studied things about Africa. But interestingly, he spent 35 years in Nigeria, went back to China to establish the Institute of African Studies at Zhejiang Normal University in China. And then he began to formulate ideas on how China and Nigeria can cooperate for development purposes. Of course, within this time and process, he interacted with quite a good number of people, and then some of them are here in the studio with me today to discuss Professor Liu Hongwu's sojourn to Nigeria, and then going back to China, what he did in China, and then the essence of what he did in China by establishing the Institute of African Studies at Zhejiang Normal University. Of course, here in the studio I also have Professor Liu Hongwu, who is the Director General of the Institute of African Studies in Zhejiang Normal University in China. I have Professor Worawo David, who is of the Department of History, University of Lagos. And then I have Professor Feb Ubi, who is the Director of Studies, Nigerian Institute of International Affairs. Gentlemen, you're welcome to this program and to our studios at Nigerian Television Authority, Channel 10, Lagos. So I first of all go to the main man himself, Professor Liu Hongwu. Tell me, why did you come here? What sparked your interest? What motivated you?
Okay, thank you, Zacharias, my brother. Everybody can call me the Lagos boy.
Lagos boy Liu Hongwu.
Lagos boy. And because here is really my second home. Because I'm very young. About 35 years ago, I come here to start in Lagos University. So every year, in the past 35, I come back here. So today we want to say thank you all body from Nigeria, my brother and sister, and my professor and my teacher. Because if we come here, I never become the professor in China. So yesterday I go to the Port Harcourt University. I meet my teacher and professor in the E.G. Alagua.
Okay, Professor Alagua, who is 90-something years old.
Yeah. In that time, he is Port Harcourt, the University Vice Chancellor, and my professor, Lagos University in Osawajo, told me that if you better understand Nigeria, you should be reading the Ajayi professor book, and also you wanted to go to the meeting the professor Alagua, because he all history is important for the Nigeria study. So I'm from Lagos, so take a drive back, go to the Port Harcourt. Yesterday I'm back to the Port Harcourt. We have the one road, one by one road, the initiation on the Delta Niger development. And when I finished the conference, I followed my colleague from the Port Harcourt to go to the Nembe village, meeting the Aswajo, Alagua. Now he's 1902, he's very old, but he's very looking well. Because we remember in that time we are very, very long story cooperation. So I wanted to say that Nigeria is a very important country in the African history. So I went back to the China and translated the Ajayi professor and Oye Soyinka write the book, and also the Aswajo and also the Alagoas book in the Chinese. I remember in that time go to the Port Harcourt, the Alagos office, and so many arts in his office and hometown. I never see so many arts from Nigeria. He told me that if you back to China, maybe in the future, you can set up the African Museum, introduce it in the Chinese. So when about 20 years ago, and go to the Zhejiang Normal University, here the nearby the Shanghai and Hangzhou.
Okay.
It's a very special university because we are keen university for the support of the China and the Africa cooperation. So we have more than 1,000 students from Nigeria and all Africa countries. So a special institute. But if we have the museum, we can connect that better standard Nigeria and Africa. So about 50 years ago, I set up the Africa Museum in China. That is the first one. And every year now we are set our PhD students and master students go to Lagos, especially go to Ibadan University, and go to the Cameroon Bayero University now. So that we are there. That is followed one generation and another generation. And also we have the students from Nigeria. They study in China. Just Dr. Wu Bi. He's a very, very famous professional in China because he studied in China, get the PhD students, and work our institute. So now he is our institute professor. So we are each other, learn each other. Important.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Okay, I might as well go straight to Professor Ubi because I wanted to ask Professor Awarawo. Okay, let me stay with you because you've been collaborating with him. And then he studied in your department at the University of Lagos. Now, this Institute of African Studies in the Zhejiang Normal University must be very significant in understanding the Chinese-Nigeria relations, isn't it?
Certainly. You know, in international relations in contemporary times, focus has been on soft power. Soft power in an era of globalization. The world is now so intertwined, intensification of international linkages, and countries have come to realize that they can best fulfill their objectives through persuasion, through arts and culture and things like that. That is the background to in this kind of cooperation, that when countries cooperate along these lines, they understand each other better. You just mentioned now, translating the works of Soyinka and Ajayi to Chinese. That will afford opportunity to Chinese to be informed about Nigerian history, Nigerian culture, and all. So it creates understanding, promotes mutual interdependence, and all of this enhanced development. I must confess we haven't cooperated enough. And his mission is how to intensify cooperation between his institute and my university, and my department especially. In fact, when he came to University of Lagos a few days ago for some lecture and all, I jokingly referred to him as Omowale, that he has returned.
The son has come back.
Yes, and now that he has returned, we must pick up momentum in our cooperation, which we consider very important because we're able to advance knowledge, share information and all. Just to give a couple of examples, we have colleagues, myself, I've been working a lot in the recent times on climate change.
Okay.
A lot on sustainable agricultural practice. And of course, industrialization generally. These are things where China has an upper hand. And so if we're able to go to China, study how all of these things are done, we're able to enhance what we are doing here and do a lot better. I'm also doing some work on soft power.
Okay.
Nigeria has been very good on soft power. Nigeria is by far the most important country in West Africa. But Nigeria has not flexed muscle. It has used soft power to be able to achieve its objectives in West Africa. So China too could benefit from that. China does a lot of that too. So when we share ideas like this, we're able to exchange ideas, strengthen understanding, promote mutual interdependence and overall development. These are the ways, and that's why we're very happy when he said it was coming. We said, well, this was an opportunity for us to do more on what we're already doing, strengthen cooperation and promote development and enhance relations between both countries. Okay. So we see this as the beginning of bigger things to come.
Yes, Prof. Subi, beginning of bigger things to come. You've benefited from this China-Nigeria exchange, and then you have been collaborating with him. Professor Warawa was talking about deepening this relationship so as to benefit both countries, not just benefiting one country, but benefiting both countries. Now, how do you think that Professor Liu Hongwu's efforts can be solidified so that it will become something much more practical?
Yeah, there are a lot of ways that relationship can be solidified. Like you said, I am one of those ways. For the mere fact I studied in China, I spent a couple of years in China as a resident, and I understand the culture, I understand the people, and I understand the politics. And so, coming back, one of the ways we have done that as an academic is to write and publish, and sometimes policy and opinion papers and news magazines and newspapers. I've done a whole lot of that. But another way is just to continue with the process of exchanges. I think part of the problem that we face in the international system is, like I said, lack of understanding of each other. Not just with the China, not just between Nigeria and China, or between the Africans or the African continent and China, but across the globe. So when you have lack of understanding, or when there's lack of understanding of people, and it creates a whole lot of tension and all that. And tension, if not mitigated at the early stage, it could become a conflict. You see, over the years, we first met, in 2013 when he came. And what he told me then, he said, FM, you're going to be the bridge between Nigeria and China. And we jokingly were just laughing in a meeting. But over those years too, we could see that a lot of Nigerians too have gone to China to study, and a lot of Chinese have come in, like you said. And so this is that bridge, that is being, created between us, between the younger generations, and the next coming generation, so that they will have this clearer understanding. One area I will really talk about is the fact that, for instance, my institute and the Institute of African Studies have had a long-term collaboration since 2013. We had an MOU. And, over the years, too, we've advised the government, on options and policy briefs, on relations with China. And if you look at, in 2006, we signed a strategic partnership agreement with the Chinese. But in 2024, that partnership was elevated. Okay. So you could see that there's a transcendental progression, or which I will use the mathematical term, geometric progression between China and Nigeria, to the extent that last year the president signed a comprehensive strategic partnership which is very, very holistic and very deep. And so it shows that we are moving forward in our relationship. Now, the infrastructural footprint you see across Nigeria, the Lagos, Ibadan rail lines, the Abuja, Kaduna, the light rail lines that you see, being built. You see, all these are partnership between the Chinese government, Lagos state government, and even the Nigerian government. So you could see that the relationship is actually becoming very pragmatic and in an unprecedented way. I think we need to further collaborate, further understand ourselves. And that is one of the reasons, 35 years ago, he's a great man. He left and still came back and went to his department. I was shocked, that he was showing me a lot of places in the university. This is where I was. He showed me a picture and all that. That means Professor Liu wants to encourage the relationship. And I studied in China, so I'm back to actually encourage. But I have not gone back to my university. I'm sure one day I will go back there to push forward this relationship.
Okay, let me get to Professor Liu Hongwu. For the past 35 years, you've been carrying out research here. And so what are the core things you've noticed about our development that we can really borrow from China to enhance and make better?
I think first of all, we should be more and young generation exchange program, such as the Wubi and me. Because I come here and Wubi go to China, so we better understand. In China, we always say the see is true. See is true. In the China, it's 眼见为实. That is it. So first one, second one, and I think maybe in the future, education and technology and young generation cooperation is also important. We are not only the agriculture industrialization cooperation and people to people exchange is very important. So maybe in the future, we're just my classmates, the Lagos History Department, we are. Because Nigeria is rich in heritage, a long history, so we can not only Chinese young generation should come here to study language, Hausa and Igbo and Yoruba language. We also come here to focus on the Nigerian history. And also, I wanted to the more and more just like we will go to the China, better answer the China history and heritage, and so on. So in the future, we can together, Nigeria and China think tank university will push on the just like the Tanzania concession, so we can more and more in the future benefit.
Yeah,
yes.
If I may add to what Prof said, recently, last year, the Consul General donated a window to China section in the library, to the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs. Now that is also to give impetus to the relationship. So, and a lot of books, 1,000 books were shipping from China. Now, part of the problem that we had before was the fact that when you're writing as a scholar, you don't have access to the Chinese literatures because they are written in Hangzi, the Chinese language. But now they have to translate these books, and they now brought them to us in the library. So all Nigerians could have access to our library to study China. If it's China, Africa, you want to study, but you now going to, like you said, seeing is believing in the truth. So you now use those books. He also, last Monday at the forum, donated books again, by Chinese authors that are translated into English to the window to China. So these are all the practical ways in which we can enhance our relationship.
Okay, Professor Woro. Now, what he's doing is pioneering something very significant. Not only for cultural exchanges, but for technology transfer, innovations in the areas of industrialization and mechanization. And he's talked about agriculture, where they're doing very well. And we have more than 230 million people we need to feed, while they're grappling with 1.4 billion people. So how do you think, Professor Hongwu will help us in this process by quickening the process of this exchange, so that we can start implementing them here?
Yeah, Professor Liu has is a director of that center, and they already have a structure which gives him the opportunity to interact with institutions in Nigeria. As you could see, NIA, they already have agreements and they work very closely. He wants to work with the University of Lagos to closer than we have had until now, so that ideas, the exchange of ideas. But one other thing that has accompanied this exchange of ideas is the involvement of the private sector.
Okay.
Yes, like the forum they had, I was also part of the forum. The managing director of IBTC was there. Huawei, the officials were also there. So it's not ideas, yes. They are doing that. But beyond ideas, we also have practical measures taken to ensure that concrete activities are carried out. China to Nigeria, which benefits Nigeria, Nigeria to China, which also benefits China. So you have executives of industries moving back and forth. You have experts moving back and forth. At that forum, I asked a question as to how they could assist us more in agriculture. And they mentioned all sorts of interventions that they have carried out, how they have trained farmers at some point, how they have organized their farmers together to give assistance at some point. These are concrete things that have benefited our people. So ideas, yes, Professor Liu comes in there, which, as I said before, I'm going to build on more. Some of us will go there, study. By the way, Professor, we all studied, I think, some programs to assist poverty alleviation. We are here to we try to advise government along that line as to the ideas, think concrete things like that have been leveraged on in terms of ideas which have translated to concrete other things beyond ideas. One other thing that I think we can also still build on is in the area of innovation. China has extensive capacity in innovation. We don't have that much in innovation. These are areas that both in theory and then translate to practice. The higher innovation we have, the better our country will be. There are areas that have not been explored, that innovation will be able to explore, and that would translate concrete things that would impact on the lives of Nigerians positively. All of these are the areas, but of course, where Professor Wu comes in, more clearly, is this exchange of ideas, which is already doing, which we want to expand. But other concrete things, of course, are accompanying that already, which we also expect to expand in the years ahead.
Okay, so Professor Liu Hongwu, how have all these things impacted your own life as a person? You came to a foreign land, and within 35 years, you studied the people, and then you left here and established an institute to collaborate and cooperate with that country. How have all these impacted your own life?
Maybe you call me in the future, we have some plan. Yes. Because today we have in China, we have the Africa, China, the university in the cooperation, the forum. So every year we have not only from the governments and also from the local people support. So maybe in the future, I wanted to say we have the system ruler, China and the Nigerian cooperation, different level, such as the governance and the local governance and the NGO and university. We can more detailed cooperation and focus on our two sides. Yes.
Okay. All right. I guess we're about running off this discussion. Let me now get from you. What would you want Professor Liu Hongwu to take back to China so that in the institute they could put that together as a process also of generating ideas that will enhance this development that we all seek between China and Nigeria?
I would like to say that I think we need to beef up and enhance our relationship, especially the think tank relationship and academic exchange programs. Now, one final thing I would like him to take home is, it is one thing to promise and another thing to fulfill the promise. But it's even more worrisome on how you can get the promise fulfilled. And so there are a lot of promises, from the focal plan of action. For instance, we're talking about the area of science and technology. The last his President Xi Jinping speech talked about training 100 scientists in Africa. And so this is where Nigeria shouldn't miss the opportunity. Our scientists should also be part of that training. The model farms that the Chinese government is sponsoring in Africa, I think we have some in Ogun State and all that, and there are places where the model farms, I think we need to increase that, especially in areas where agriculture, there are states where agriculture is supposed to be the major booming sector. And so I think these are areas, I think we should be, our relationship should be sector driven, and should be such that we look at comparative advantage to drive that kind of relationship.
Professor David Awarawo, yes, your last word?
Yes, we need to be strategic. We need to be non-ideological. We need to be guided by the principle of the only ism that makes sense is pragmatism. Neither socialism, nor communism, nor capitalism. If we are guided by that, we identify what benefits us, China will identify what benefits it, and in that exchange, we'll focus on all of that. And that is because all countries are actually conducting relations in line with their interest. And so when China sees that there is something that Africa has to offer, Nigeria has to offer, of course, they will focus on that. And we also know there's a lot we can also gain from China. When we focus on all of this, relations will just be, move on and on and on. It will be better and better and friendlier. And of course, the partnership will also blossom and then, of course, reach a higher level. All right,
Professor Liu Hongwu, you are now a Nigerian by extension. So what are your projections in the coming years regarding the Lagos Forum and then with the institutes you're collaborating with, and then of course the nation at large?
Okay, first of all, maybe I want to invite you to China.
Accepted.
Yes, because the knowledge level is very important. Many Chinese wanted to better standard from the people to people. Yes. And also China is a very big market. Sorry. And for the most important, for the focus on our two sides, the economy, the cooperation. Maybe in the future we can see the made in Nigeria for the China, made in Nigeria for the China, and made in China for Nigeria. So tomorrow I will be discussing the Ajari's foundation, Madame Irina. We are focused on the traditional culture and the modernization, how we can focus on study our heritage and history, and not only for the economy, the value, but we also to fund that is rebuilding our two sides, the idea and knowledge. So that is very, very basic in the future. So just like the Lagos Forum and the Abuja Forum is important. So in the future we have more and more in the future cooperation.
All right, viewers, it's time to thank my guests here. The main person or focal person for this segment's discussion has been Professor Liu Hongwu, who is the Director General of the Institute of African Studies in Zhejiang Normal University in China. He spent 35 years in Nigeria studying, then going back to China, establishing an institute, and then coming back to Nigeria to act as a bridge between Nigeria and China in development. So, Professor Li Hongwu, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Professor David Awarawo is of the University of Lagos, Department of History. His collaborator, his friend. And then what Professor Awarawo was talking about pragmatism, I buy that, so that we can set up fundamental areas of cooperation and make sure we see that to the end. Thank you very much, Prof, for being on the program.
Thank you.
All right. And then, of course, Professor Ubi Femubi, who is now Chinese, who is now Chinese. And then we thank him for his contributions. And then he was able to tell us about the areas where the Chinese government is establishing incubatory industries and then that we can benefit from as a people. So we thank them for discussing this today, and then we do hope we've learned one or two things from this discussion today.